Hi, third grade friends. I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about weaving. So I'm going to go ahead and show you the first step of weaving. This is going to be 2 videos. So I want you to watch the first step, get your weaving prepped, and then we'll be able to actually start the weaving process once we get our loom prepped. I kind of want to show you a little bit about one I've been working on. This is my Claude Monet piece that I've been working on. If you notice in the background, Claude Monet used a lot of lines in thick strokes with his brush strokes to create his artwork, combining tons of colors all at one time. It's called Impressionist artwork. When you look at Claude Monet's artwork, you'll notice if you look at it really, really close up, you can't always tell what the picture is. But when you step back and you look at it from far away, you'll be able to see all of the different pictures and details that he puts in his artwork. Go ahead and look at his water lily print. You'll be able to see from that picture that when you look at it close up, you can't always tell the water lilies are there. But when you look at it from far away, you're able to see that, and that it's there. Sometimes you'll see the Japanese bridge in there as well. This plate was supposed to be done just like that. So what I tried to do is I took blues and greens and white paint and I mixed it together with brush strokes. Now remember, I double loaded my paintbrush and I painted it on top of each other, but I never swirled it to mix. That's how I got this look. Now, yours does not have to look like this. This is just my example, and you'll see that I'm using a pink and yellow to weave, so it looks like that there are flowers on my water lily pad. You can take this and use it for yourself, or you can go ahead and do something different. I'm going to show you how to prep your plate today and decorate it. And then in our next video, I'll talk to you about how to prep your loom. It's called warping. And then we'll go ahead and get weaving. Now, if you were with me last year, you've done weaving before, and it's going to be the same idea, over, under, but we're going to go in a circle instead. So today I want you to prep your loom. After you get that done, then I'll go ahead and show you how to warp your loom and get it ready for weaving, okay? All right, I look forward to seeing you and what you create. Have fun. Hi everyone, let's go ahead and get started now on our circle loom weaving. You'll see in front of me I have my sample that I used. It's similar to Claude Monet's water lilies. And today we're going to go ahead and prep the loom. The loom is going to be the article we use to do our weaving on. So if you remember last year, we did our weaving on a cardboard square. This year we're going to change it to a circle plate. What you're going to need is the plate that I sent home with you in your bag and the yarn that I sent home with you as well. Right now we're just going to be using the plate, and in the next video we'll go ahead and get the yarn out to warp our loom, and then the other yarn I sent home with you you'll be able to use to actually weave. Those of you who are at home and do not have these supplies because you're not in third grade in Mrs. Green or Mr. Jersey's classroom, you're going to need to get yourself a paper plate. Now, I've used the Chinette kind. It's a heavy-duty paper plate. The only kind you don't want to use are the ones that have little ruffles around the edge. They're really thin and they bend. You don't want to use that kind. If you have a paper plate that has a design on it, that's okay. We can work with that. But those of you who are at home and have these supplies with you, you'll notice that your paper plate has already been marked, and you'll see those black lines all the way around your paper. You're going to go ahead and make sure you have 19 black lines, okay? If you don't have 19, you can either add one or take one away. We need to have an odd number, all right? You don't want 18, so you want 19. For those of you who are at home and don't have a paper plate, what you're going to want to do, if you look at my template, is you're going to want to go through and mark, and maybe have an adult help you, mark around your plate. Now mine are probably about an inch and a quarter away from each other. This is a template I use year after year after year. So we don't ever weave on this one. We just use this to mark our plates in the classroom. So you'll notice that the lines are a lot thicker, and that's only because we're marking our loom. You're not going to make yours that wide. Okay, so it looks like a little V. You won't be doing that. Okay, once you know you have 19 on your loom, you're going to go ahead and take your scissors and you're going to cut. Now, when I cut mine, I don't like to use the tip of my scissors. Sometimes it works. I like to use the inside of my scissors, especially if you have children's scissors at home. It cuts a lot better when you go all the way in here rather than using the tip, but you can try. Now, you're just going to cut straight lines into the loom, and you'll notice that I've gone about halfway into this little lip on my piece of paper. So if you notice, can you see how I've done that? It's about halfway. So what I want to do is I'm going to go all the way around. I've done 3 cuts so far, and I'm going to just make sure I have enough. 4, 5, 6. There's one right there. See, it's kind of hard to see, so I have to turn my plate. 7, 8, 9. Oops, went too far. That's okay. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and I'm back at the beginning again. So I know I have 19 cuts. So I can look at my plate now and know that I have enough. Now, the reason why we cut these all the way to the middle is we want when we do our yarn, which we're going to call our waft, when we're warping our loom with our waft, you're going to want to make sure that that can go in there. So do you see how I made sure that that can go in deep enough? I don't want it to be too shallow. What will happen is it'll start to fall out and then you'll get really frustrated. I also don't want it to go so far in that this starts to bend. Okay? All right, so you're going to go ahead and get that loom all prepped. And then the next thing we're going to do is color it. Okay? Now, we want to put a design on our loom. Looms go in a circular motion. So most often when I do this project, we create a concentric circle on our loom. That's like Mr. Kandinsky's artwork. Remember, he does the concentric circles. So you can use any items you have at home to do this. You can, if you have paint at home, you can paint concentric circles on here. If we were at school, this is what we would use. We would use our paint to paint concentric circles. If you are at home and you just have some crayons, these are special crayons. They're called beeswax crayons, but they're just regular crayons. They just are a little bit thicker, and they have really bright colors. If you have crayons, get your crayons out, and you're going to color in concentric circles, okay? I'll show you what mine will look like in a minute. You can use markers. If you have markers at home, get your markers out and you can make concentric circles with your markers. Or if you have watercolors, you can get your watercolors out. I'm going to do mine with watercolors today. So I'm going to get my plate. I'm going to open up my watercolors. I have my water sitting right here with me. And I'm going to go ahead and take my brush. Actually, I'm going to use a square brush. I'm going to take whatever brush I have that comes with my watercolors, and I'm going to go ahead and start painting. Now, you could do this in rainbow order. You could do all cool colors. You could do all warm colors. Totally up to you. The fun part about this is you get to experiment with what you want your circle to look like. Now, I want you to start with just a dot in the middle. Now, it can be bigger than this. It can be smaller than this. It does not matter which you choose to do. This is completely up to you. But I am going to go ahead as I create my concentric circles, and I'm going to be mindful of what colors react with each other. So if I'm going to do watercolor, I know that I don't want purple next to this color unless it's dry. And I actually want to put some dark on here too. I'm not going to do it all warm colors. I'm going to do some cool. Now, your circles can be thin and they can be thick. The reason why I'm showing you this done with watercolor is I want to show you what you can do with it once it's done with your crayons or your markers. That's the fun part. So I'm just going to go ahead and paint my plate. You can use marker again, and you can do that. You can do the same thing with your marker or your crayons. All right, go ahead and start painting, friends. Now that this is painted, I'm going to go ahead and let this dry for just a minute, and I'm going to show you something different. For those of you who are interested in doing something more like the Monet piece, you can see, I'm just going to show you really quickly how that would turn out. And you can, if you have one plate, maybe you have another plate at home, you can go ahead and use. With this Monet piece, I used tempera paint that we use in the classroom. It's the thick opaque paint. Remember, opaque means I cannot see through it. But today I'm going to use my watercolor and show you how you can do that. So it's the same idea, except you're not going to double load your paintbrush. You can go ahead and go through with your paint, and you want this time make it not quite as watery, and you're just going to go through and start putting dashes. You want to choose one direction in which you are going to paint your paper. Monet would have painted his side to side, and if he was doing his water, he would choose one direction for it to go. And you're really going to just take that paint, and like I said, we want to do a little bit less water so we can get that really vibrant color that you can't always get with a watercolor, but we're going to try that today. Okay, once I have my blue down, I'm going to switch to a new color, and this is just, my paint palette has a lot of different colors on it. You might have a paint palette that doesn't. Another way to do this is to use those markers and to take your marker and to rub it on a piece of plastic. So you could do this on tin foil or on a plastic baggie. And you can do the exact same thing where you take it and you make your own paint out of it now, and then you paint it across. Okay? It's not going to be as vibrant. We can't get it quite as bright as those other colors, but it still works the same way as a watercolor. So you're definitely welcome to do that. So if this were my water lilies, I would just continue to add layer on layer on layer of color. And I would go back and forth between my blues. I may even do a little bit of purple to add into this. This purple right here, it looks purple. It's more of a violet, so it's like a blue purple, but I could add that on there because I don't have a dark blue on this paint palette. So weird. They should put dark blue on here, but they don't. I think at school our paint palette has a dark blue, but this is a different kind of paint I have right here. All right, so that's how I did that. All right, and I just layered it and layered it and layered it. And if you want to do that, you can cover your whole piece and then you can make a Monet one. Alrighty, but today I'm working on that Kandinsky piece. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my Kandinsky piece and I'm going to wait until it's dry. But once it's dry, I have some options to adding to it. And this is the part I think is really fun, is when you can take your crayons or you could do it with markers too. I'll show you the difference between the two. And you're just going to start putting really simple designs on these, okay? So instead of me leaving my plate just like this, which I'm going to do my weaving on top of, I'm going to go ahead and start taking colors that might go with it. So I have this green one here. So on my green, I'm just going to go through it and it's a little wet. So you want to make sure yours is really dry, all right? And then I'm going to go ahead and put some lines on there. And then I might take a bright orange and go, it's really wet right here still, but I could go to my orange one and I could do some zigzags. Okay, now, if you have a whole bunch of paint at home, you could absolutely do this with tempera paint. Watercolor, it will be hard to do, but you could. If you have paint pens, you could do it with paint pens. Everybody has different art supplies at home, and so I want to show you just basic art supplies and what you can do with this. Now, if I colored this with marker, I could go ahead and do my crayon over it. If I colored it with crayon, I really can only put a design on with another crayon. That wax reacts against itself. So I wouldn't be able to do that kind of a detail on it. But you're going to go ahead and take, just going through and using all those lines that we've learned about, you can go through and just add some details to your plate, okay? All right, then you're going to let your plate set it aside. You're going to let it dry. Once it's all done, you have all your designs on there. You're going to come back to me and we're going to do step 2 of our project, okay? So this is just step 1. I want you to get your plate done, finish it up, make it look gorgeous, and then get ready for step 2. Feel free to send me any pictures of your artwork at any point in time. I look forward to seeing what you're creating, and I look forward to seeing you in our next video when we actually do the weaving. Have a great time, you guys, and have fun creating.